I was just telling everybody who's listening, I was just telling Ian. Ian was like, how's it going today? And I was like, it's the 10th year wedding anniversary. And
congratulations.
I forgot.
Dude.
Oh, and she's reminded me so much over the last month, kind of hinting and kind of just, hey, wedding anniversary, 10 years this year. And I was like, yeah, great. It is, isn't it? It's 10 years. I came out of the shower this morning. She was like, had the card, and I was like, fuck.
Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry for Scott.
It's okay. Do you know why? It's okay because we have to actually with this episode. It's gonna be quite short. It's gonna be like an hour. It's gonna be an hour, which will be short for me and you, Ian. The reason being is that I'm taking Lisa out.
Good.
To see Dune or Dune.
Oh yes, dude.
That's the best type of present.
Yes.
That's the
Dune.
Yeah.
I've been working on my pronunciation because it's so funny, man. Yeah. I've never even really noticed. But yes, you guys say Dune, right? Dune. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, Dune. I mean, it's like,
Dune.
Oh, mate, Dune. Yeah. Even in a Cockney accent, it'd be Dune. Oh, mate.
Dune.
You're gonna go say Dune. Dune.
Okay, now I want you to try your. So I'm gonna try it. Like, oh, mate, you're gonna go see Dune.
Yeah, Dune.
Dune. Yes.
Dune.
Oh, hi.
Dune.
You see, Dune.
We're just offending.
What if you're in Belfast? What if you're in Belfast? What do you say?
I can barely do accents. Dune. It'd be Dune. Yeah, so it's always Yoon. It's got that Dune in the UK. Whereas you guys, you just go straight for the done. Like, what is it?
Well, it's not done. It's Dune.
Dune. Oon.
Yep.
Oon.
Dune. Right.
Yeah, Dune. Okay.
but here's the thing.
I'm glad
are you saying? Do you say? Are we going to tune up our bass? We're going to tune up first. Do you say that?
Oh yeah, we're tuning. We're not tuning. We're tuning. We're tune.
Yeah, you are.
Like a tulip.
Tuning.
Oh, do you guys say tulip instead of
tuning?
Do you say tulip?
Tulip? Like the flower?
Yeah.
That's a tulip.
It's a tulip. So you don't say that either. It's a tulip, not a tulip. We're a tulip. Tulip. Dune.
Right. Yeah. Tune. And it's funny, where I'm from Montana, and we would always say, we're going on tour. But
instead of tour.
Tour. Yes.
Tour,
and then the East Coast, they say tour.
Oh, really?
But we say tour.
Yeah. Tour.
Dude.
In like Scotland, they don't call the moors the moors. So it's not, like the Yorkshire moors.
Yes.
They call it the moors.
The moors. Yes.
Moors. And sort of like Northern England. If anybody doesn't know the UK and they're wondering where I'm from, it's like north, but there is like a north above the north. I'm kind of sort of like Leeds, Manchester area, it's north like, but it's not in terms of. I guess no, it is kind of when I think about Game of Thrones, we are definitely in the north. Right.
Okay.
But
would the people from Durham say that they're in the true north?
Well, they're at the wall.
Got it.
I mean, but here's the weird thing. Like, if you don't know anything about the UK, there is a wall. Like, there is a wall. Yes. Yeah. There is a wall. It's called Hadrian's Wall. And Hadrian's Wall, basically cuts the UK in half. So the UK it's from Roman times, and they actually walled off Scotland. So so for like Game of Thrones, that wall, although it's not as big as that wall, it did exist in Roman times. And a bunch of it still exists now. So you can actually go up to Hadrian's Wall and see where it's actually been built. And it's been pulled down years and years ago. But, it went right across the UK. It's fascinating. So the wall in Game of Thrones actually did exist in the UK. How cool.
Wow. That's so
I'm
cool.
not sure any giants lived in Scotland, though. Yeah, did you not know that? Maybe
I didn't know.
Don't know that. Yeah. Hadrian's Wall.
I have family in Durham. Did I tell you that? I have some coal mining family.
Yeah, they're just below the wall. They'll be able to see the giants from, Oh Oh man, it was so good, wasn't it? Game of Thrones. I'm going through Vikings at the minute. I'm doing a rerun with my wife of 10 years. Wife of 10 years. Do you know what though? It's 17 years actually. Like, she was super stoked about the 10-year wedding anniversary. She wasn't so stoked that I forgot it, but she was definitely stoked about the 10-year wedding. I'm more stoked about the 17 years. I'm like, whatever. 17 years, man. That's what I'm really. How long have you guys been together?
We've been together. We just did our 12th in September. Wedding anniversary. Yeah, but I suppose we were together, I think, about 5 years before that. So very similar. So 17-ish, I think, in there. I hope I'm getting that right. That
sounds mental, doesn't it? It sounds bonkers. 17 years. How do I not hate her face yet? No, but Lisa and I, we actually do talk about this on a regular basis. We're like, isn't this weird how we don't hate each other's faces? Like, when I was a kid, if I'd imagined sort of like, when you're sort of like getting into dating and you're in that kind of sort of like early, sort of like sub 20, if I imagined back then, or even actually post 20, even sort of like early 20s, if I imagined spending sort of like 17 years with somebody, I'd just think, it's not going to be cool. Actually, it's really cool. It's really great. Cool. It's really cool, yeah.
It is really cool because they got your back and you've got their back. Like when that feeling is there, and especially if you have kids, when you feel like both people are looking out for the family, it just feels like there's nothing you can't do, Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's great when you grow in the same direction. I think that's... Yes. I think that's the sort of like the fly in the ointment. I think that naturally people sometimes, just for whatever reason, they just grow in slightly different directions, and it's kind of. Sure. I think it's actually a lot of it comes down to luck. I think that we would just look. I don't think there's anything that we did that to grow in the same direction, but it just ended up working out. And I've got like a bunch of friends who are all great, and it didn't work out, and for whatever reason they just grew in different directions, and it was very undramatic, and it was. I mean, there was no kind of like crazy, sort of like screaming divorces going on. It was just like they grew in different directions, and that's just how it ended up. So yeah, but yeah, I'm super stoked, but definitely more stoked at the 17 years. Anyway,
that's cool.
Yes, I'm going to see Dune tonight. That's what I was like. I'm so sorry. Let's go to the cinema tonight. And she was like, let's go to the cinema. And then she said, have you got any ideas of what you want to see? And I was like, not really. I mean, I'm pretty open, but I've heard that this cool thing called Dune on. She was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. I was like, okay, let's go.
Oh, I think you'll love it. And I hope she'll love it too. I just shouldn't say anything. It's lovely. And it's all the things that you want a great movie to be. So I think you'll love it. And she will too.
It's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be awesome. And Lisa's mum's over as well. She's looking after the kids, which is wicked.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. Your mum lives with you, or?
Yeah, right? Well, she's in the same. As of now, she's we live in like a triplex, and she's in one of the units, and she does take care of the kiddos on a pretty regular basis, which is amazing. If we go out, or sometimes she helps out during the day. She works too. She's a fitness instructor actually, which is so great.
Really?
Yeah, wow. Man. Yeah, and remember I was telling you, my whole family is like Peloton crazy. And I'm the black sheep that doesn't do it, but everyone else in my family's just like cut and just like super, oh man. And I struggle.
That? Yeah. Your dad as well.
my dad too, and they're not together anymore, but my father he was like a bike racing guy in the 80s. I mean, like really, really a competitive cyclist, badass. And he still puts up big numbers. I mean, on Peloton. Oh, and my mom's great. And my sister is a freaking machine.
I know,
and my wife too. And I am not.
It's good, man. You're a great bass player. Maybe that makes it for it.
I'll take it. Take it, man. But I want to be like Rufus, man. I mean, I see Rufus. Rufus is like, hey, Phil man, Pot. I want to go on the Phil Pot. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah. Like he's like, hey, man, I want to come on that bike ride, and then he's sending me like videos of him like doing these mountain bike treks on the edges of cliffs, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, he'd kill us.
There's this whole sort of like biking community within the bass player community. So Rufus Phil Pots are really fantastic, or really. yeah, like I was about to say, he's a really I'm sure he's fantastic, but he's a really, you know, enthusiastic biker. Tim LaFave, he's really into biking. There's Gary Willis is the OG.
Really?
Like Gary Willis. Oh yeah, he's like proper. They're just keeping up with him, dude. Gary is like the OG when it comes to biking, right? I used to go to, well, first of all, he used to have like, obviously he had his website, and at one point there was almost as much stuff on there about biking as there was bass. So Gary's thing is downhill mountain biking. Yeah, he's crazy into it. So I used to go to his apartment in Barcelona, and he'd have the bike in there. I think at one point he was in the bath, and it was just like covered in mud. And
so cool.
I think he broke his shoulder or shoulder blade or something biking. I can remember having this conversation while I was in Barcelona, and I was like, "You broke it?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it." He just dusted it off. He was like, "Whatever, man. This just comes with the territory." Yeah, you know, I was like, "Holy crap, this guy's crazy."
Oh, dang, man.
So yeah, he's like the OG bike, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other bikers out there. But yeah, we should definitely do that trip, man. I was thinking about it the other day. If anybody's listening about what the trip is, I was saying that I've always wanted to ride from right at the top, sort of like Portland area, or even north of that. I think it's actually. The actual bike ride is just sort of like in Canada, isn't it? It's from
Vancouver.
the Canadian border, I think. Vancouver, yeah. Vancouver to Mexico, down the west coast. Come on. And our idea was to do this and like get a bunch of bass players to do it with us. I don't know, like choose a charity, and then if we don't die on the way, do you know what I mean? By the end, we'll sort of like raise a bunch of money and sort of like... and be able to sort of like, do some good stuff, basically. I think it's wild, man. The only downside is it takes 30 days. That's the Well, the downside is that it takes 30 days, and we'd end up with our asses that just look like they'd be destroyed. We'd be hobbling around for like weeks afterwards.
But we train beforehand, and it's going to be good. I mean, I'm telling you, if it's a go, I am so excited. I'm gonna
Have you ever
get this dad bod in shape.
Have you ever imagined what elephant skin feels like, or rhino skin? That'd be our ass, man.
Yes, indeed. Leathery. Leathery and dry.
So dry.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I have some friends, man. I have some friends too that have said, "Oh, if you do that, yeah, because they're hardcore bikers, you know." Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know from firsthand experience, but man, they're talking like, "Hey, could we come down and do a couple of days with you?" And I'm like, "I mean, I think so. Like, just join up the crew."
It would be amazing to do. It would be amazing to do.
Yeah. Anyway.
Apart from the leathery ass. But anyway.
Yes.
So right. So today, what we talking about? You messaged me about it earlier, didn't you? What we talking about?
We're talking about making content. And before we even dive into this, let me just say this: I'm tired of that word. I hear it like, yes. And I would hear it in the beginning, and I would roll my eyes before I was making a lot of it. Whenever I would hear the word, I would go, oh, because it just sounded, I don't know, the word to me sounds corporate, or it doesn't sound artful, maybe. And maybe that's just my own bias, but I always was put off when somebody would say to me, "Oh man, well, you just need to be making more content." I was like, oh, God. It just felt... Yeah. It just felt corny until I got into doing it, and now I really enjoy it. But I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure you do too, of like, how do you make videos? How do you get your audio right? What camera do you use? Do you use any lights? I mean, there's so many things.
Good, actually. Yeah.
Like,
so I didn't even think about that when you said you messaged me before. And the title of this podcast is "Where Do I Even Start to like with content?" Right. So, and I was making notes earlier because I'm a good boy. So,
You're a Boy Scout.
Homework. I am a Boy Scout.
Yes, you do.
I've got my little neckerchief on.
You could start a fire with like nothing out in the woods.
Just like sticks. So, and I automatically went to sort of like platforms and cadence and planning and batching. But you're right. Let's talk about gear first.
I mean, I just think that sometimes when people hear the word, and even if they want to do it, it feels like, oh my God, it's so big and vast, and there's so many components to it potentially. And of course, the things you mentioned, like platform and do you have a schedule? But I'm even just saying, like, how, if you've never done it and you want to make some videos for Instagram, for TikTok, how do you even start? I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk about. There's the gear, there's also your approach, what you want to say, right? But I do think the first thing that I want to say is just start doing it with whatever you have. Because if you go back and look at the stuff that I first started to do, or Scott, the stuff that you first started to do on YouTube, it doesn't look the same as it does now.
It was crap, wasn't it? Yeah. It was fine, but it was crap.
Yeah, it wasn't crap, but it wasn't like I was totally compelled by your first videos. But there's an evolution, right? It's I think that when people are waiting, they're like, oh, I've got to wait till I get the new MacBook, or I've got to wait till I get that enough money to buy a really nice Softbox light. Yeah, I think so, right? I think you just have to start and just know that by starting, you're going to learn and it will get better. Even if you buy all the gear at first and you've got a huge budget for a beautiful studio light and, you know, nice microphones and everything, your content still will be crap compared to where it will be in a year. So I think that's a really important thing, right? You just have to start doing it with whatever stuff you have. And if you need some things, maybe we can talk about, you know, what did you start with? When you started making it back in 2007, right, dude? Did you start in 2007?
Yeah. No, let me have a look. I'll tell you. Let's have a look at when the
YouTube channel.
On the YouTube. Let's go to the YouTubes.
let's hit YouTube. Scroll on down that video feed, hundreds of videos down. You and Marlo, man. You and Marlo DK just like
Marlo
crushing the YouTubes.
What a dude.
Yeah.
I hope he's good wherever he is. Marlo, if anybody's wondering who Marlo DK is, he is the OG, who was actually doing this stuff way before me. So my first video I uploaded was 2008, but it was just me dicking about on the bass. So my first lesson,
I think it counts.
I've had a funny day. My first lesson was actually 2010.
Okay,
so
first lesson. So you're dabbling, and 2 years you're dabbling, where you're maybe putting up some videos, but you don't have a focused approach until 10.
I put 2 videos up in 2 years. So yeah,
right.
I could have possibly leaned on the gas a little more, but my first lesson went out 2010, so 11 years ago. That's when I started doing this.
Yeah. And
what I was using, I think I'm looking at the video. I think it was some kind of. It was I'm skinny there. I need to get this back. I need to shed some pounds, man. I'm looking at this. Look how lean I am. I could run for miles.
Yeah, miles and miles with that leathery ass. Dude.
Oh. I'm never going to forget that.
So hey,
yeah, so it was basically
here's
a flip
something.
Camera. I think it was like a flip camera. I think it was called a flip camera. It was just it was real crap, man. And you can tell by the quality there. You used to be able to flip it round, stick on a little tripod.
Yes.
And that'll be, and that was it. But honestly, like now, everybody with a smartphone, so pretty much everybody listening to this, you can just start with your iPhone. In fact, there's also a real case for not even thinking about going with anything else other than your iPhone. Like I think that you do primarily everything other than like the YouTube. Do you do? No, you don't use your iPhone for the YouTube stuff, do you? But you have done in the past.
I have, and there are some. Yeah, and in fact, I've gotten so used to my iPhone rig, and I'm just shooting now on an iPhone X, so it's like 3 years old. And the new ones, I mean, I'm about to get a new phone. I need to get a new one. But there's something I've really fallen in love with how my flow works on that, substandard gear. And even with nice cameras, I mean, I've shot some stuff, with some really nice cameras. Sometimes I feel like the definition is almost too high and I don't like my skin tone, or, there's definitely some things. The high-end cameras are amazing for, like, the background is really stable. There's nothing sort of like fluttering in the blacks, but boy, for me, for like skin tone stuff, sometimes really nice cameras is like 2 HD and it's just like, let's you're like, hey, let's get in there and really, really check out the pores on old Allison's face. And it's like, oh man, please, Lord, I need all the help I can get. So, so regardless, really, really great gear is really great. But yeah, if you have a smartphone, you can absolutely shoot on that. And I'll just show you too. I have, this is a pretty cool rig. I mean, now the newer phones, I think, have a wider angle lens, but what I do in my tiny room, I'm just showing you, I have my iPhone X in this case, and then I have a snap-on lens that attaches, and then it's like a wide angle. It's a nice lens. And then I use the Filmic app, which is just a really nice third party. It's cheap, I think, $10 or something, that lets you adjust things. And so you can get the white balance right. You can get the aperture and all that stuff right. And I'm not into that. I'm not like a filmmaker or someone who's really excited about taking photos or making movies, but I just have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, probably.
That's what you need, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what you need. Like, nobody, like, it depends on who your audience is as well. Like, if you were like creating, I don't know, like content for, let's say, Instagram or YouTube, and your main audience is a photography audience, then you're gonna have to have it dialed in, right? Because they'll be looking at your image quality and they'll be like, this guy knows nothing. But if it's a bass audience or a guitar audience or a drum audience and they know nothing, then for me, I think that it's just get it looking half decent. I think that it's just remove all barriers, so if it's a gear thing, just use your phone. You don't need, you can just use your phone, and there's more kind of stuff going on in your head rather than sort of like, the gear. It's sort of like, ooh, I should wait to get this, that, and the other. And really try not to go hard down, kind of sort of like get on YouTube and looking at a million reviews of what's the best camera for this and what's the best.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just a big waste of time. Like, really, like it really is. Like, for instance, look at Ian's stuff. Go to his Instagram channel. It's all done on his iPhone, and like predominantly most of the stuff you've done for YouTube has been on your iPhone. I know you've got one of these. This is what I use. Yes,
because you guys sent me the little Sony cam. Yeah, and that thing, like I've done some stuff on that too. I've done some stuff on that. I have had a hard time with that camera making my skin just look terrible. It's just like the settings. I mean, and so here's the thing. It's a really nice phone.
Maybe it's your skin, dude. Maybe your skin's just terrible.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yes, yeah. So it's actually not the camera. I'm like, dude, yes, dude. I'm like the guy saying like, oh, this bass must be terrible because I can't get a good slap sound out of it. And it's like, oh, it's your technique, bro. Yeah, maybe I got to do a skincare regimen.
I don't know what do you know what this camera's called if anybody wants to check one out?
That's the Z. Okay, hold on.
What is it? I'm looking on it.
I have it here. You have this one as well.
I love this because I've got this mic here. And it's because just to be explicit as well, it's because my iPhone is shot to bits. Like I actually can't even charge it. The charging port doesn't work. So if anybody's looking
with mud,
it's caked with mud.
From the garden.
Yeah, because I left it out of the garden, it rusted. So I've got this charging thing here, which is like I don't know what it's called, some kind of.
It's like a wireless.
It's a wireless charger. And I have to put my phone on it to charge. So I can't get anything. It's just wrecked. The camera, the whole phone's wrecked. It's years old and wrecked. Anyway, so that's why I use this thing, which is is it a Z1?
It's a ZV1.
ZV1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's cool. I dig it.
It's so cool. And if you want mean, the nice thing about standalone cameras, like so if someone is like, why would you want a standalone camera versus your phone? I think there are two reasons. One, the image sensor on these is always so much better than any phone. Maybe in 5 years, Apple will then be able to rival the big DSLR stuff, but the image sensor, the sensor that the camera uses to take the photo is so much bigger. So it maintains colors. The blacks in the background aren't wiggly. And for people that really care about that stuff, that's a big deal. The other thing that I've noticed about using a standalone device versus your phone is that then you can have your phone. So if you have a camera set up, right? Yeah. So when I'm shooting with my iPhone, I turn airplane mode. And then if I have it set up in that spot all day, I don't have a phone, right? It's really nice to have a standalone device if you want that, if you're going to be shooting or you want to leave your rig set up all the time. It's really great for that. That said, I really do love the ease of use of the Apple ecosystem. I think using the camera features on an iPhone is actually pretty amazing, and it's really convenient.
If I was new to this, and even not new to it, I'd probably just use the iPhone, to be honest, or smartphone. I think that like these are fine, but it's if you really care, But for me, it's just like making it as easy as possible. Just one thing to point out as well is on the V1. Is that what it's called? ZV1?
Z, dude.
Z yes. Or Z, sorry, ZV1.
No, I love it.
Z.
No, yeah. I'm trying to.
Are you trying? Well, you've got there's a little shotgun mic on top of it.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool.
The camera audio is whack, right? You can't use the camera audio. So so on the camera, you need some kind of little mini shotgun mic. But what you're doing on the iPhone, my assumption is that you actually... Have you sort of like micing it up and then doing it in post or something?
So if I'm holding my phone in front of my face and doing stories, or I'm even doing some sort of like vlog style content, it's probably not great, but I feel like I can get away with the iPhone camera audio if I'm speaking. Yeah. Not if I'm doing like a sat down video shoot like in this frame, like which is, how I do a bunch of the shorts or the footage
YouTube
for
stuff,
YouTube, In which case I'm using this mic that I'm using right now, which is a condenser mic made by Rode called an NTK, and I think it's a nice sounding microphone. But when I'm kind of vlogging and I'm walking around my house and I have my phone in front, that's just the camera. But here's the thing I will say. I think in this world of making base content for either YouTube or a social platform, I think the audio matters more than the video. I think if your audio is crap, there's even been like, people have talked about this and shown this. Adam Neely did a video about this actually, where he said, I'm going to have really excellent video quality, HD video quality, and the colors are great, and really far away, crummy sounding audio while he's speaking and playing bass, and it sounds tinny and terrible. And then he switches it, and the video is grainy and crap looking, but his voice sounds big and the bass sounds big, and you immediately are like, that's better quality. At least
that's really interesting.
He was making that case, and I think there's a lot of people who've
done stuff like that. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people done stuff like that. So your audio needs to be good. Like, note to myself, I'm super lazy with this. Like with the audio side, I'm just going back to why I kind of like if I use my iPhone, why I'd use my iPhone if it wasn't shot to bits. It's because I don't need to. I just don't want to get a video and stick it in an editor and have to sort of sync the audio. I'm not saying don't. It kills me. I'm just like, I just want to get it done and get it out. Get it done.
Got
and
it.
Get it
See,
out. Yeah.
To me, the audio is the most important part. I spend probably the most amount of time thinking about mixing those videos. Anything I do on my Instagram or for SBL, if I mix it, I'm thinking about how I'm approaching the audio, and then I do line that up. So what I do is I record the audio into Logic, and I have a really simple setup, a simple universal audio interface, which I'd recommend to anyone. They're wonderful. I have some Neve preamps, but for the longest time, I didn't have any of that stuff. I just went straight into my little, from my pedal board, so bass into pedal board, into my little universal audio interface into Logic. And then similarly with the microphone, running that right straight through the little interface right into Logic. 2 channels, DI on the bass, microphone. So then if I'm speaking and playing, I have both of those things. I record that into Logic and then I mix that, right? So then I'm maybe compressing the bass a little bit. I'm doing some EQing the vocal, de-essing the vocal. So all that stuff gets pulled down, right? And then bouncing that out as a stereo track. Then I'm lining that up with the video. But that's because I really care about audio. It's the thing that I care about the most, more than video in terms of quality. I think great sounding audio is for me, it's a necessity. But that's just because that's the thing that I care about. That's, I come from... Though?
What's great about this is just to highlight that we've just got sort of like starkly, our approaches are completely different.
Yeah.
Mine's just sort of like, just got to get it out, just got to do it. Right. And yours is like more considered, and then you're putting, and I think that honestly, the audio is, it is important. But with all that said, I'm still going to be scrappy. I'm still going to,
here's the funny thing. I mean, like the thing that you should say, or that you're maybe thinking and not saying is like, you're like, yeah, okay, the audio is important. You're like, but I'm the one with a giant bass company. I mean, you it's what's actually the most important. I bet you would agree with this, is quality content. It's the idea, right? It's how you're delivering the idea.
It's the delivery,
Yes. Right. And so, I mean, you could have excellent audio, but a crappy idea and a crappy narrative and, crappy playing or whatever. I mean, you are able to, I put this in quotes, get away with maybe a lower quality of audio because you're such a killing player and because you have this idea of how you're going to get your point across. Right. So like that stuff makes up for the fact that you're not, slaving away and on audio.
I should also say as well that it's on the YouTube stuff that's proper. I mean, like that. Yeah, that's like a nice mic, and I'm sort of like D'ing out my bass, and it's going into a desk, and that goes off, and the editors make it sound nice, and all of that kind of stuff. So when I say I'm super scrappy, and I'm actually, I should have really just been explicit about what I was talking about so the listeners know. But I was thinking about Instagram, basically. When I was thinking about that, I was just sort of like,
like when you're doing the bass sheds, playing something just over the iPhone mic.
Yeah.
But that stuff's cool,
that's what I'm talking about. I like it.
I think that stuff sounds cool. Yeah.
I like it.
I agree. I like it too. I mean, and sometimes like when I will do a live on Instagram, there's no way to get an interface into that rig, at least not that I know of. So I'm turning up my monitors and, just speaking over the open air and going into the camera mic, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But when I do posts like feed posts, when I do feed posts, then I'm taking the audio. Like when I'm playing along to a track, then I'm taking that audio and I'm mixing it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What I was going to say is like, what I guess what we sort of like hopefully made clear is that, anybody that listening to this has really got the ability to start, jumping into creating content online, whether it be YouTube or Instagram or wherever it is. And you need to make it look half decent, but your iPhone is or your smartphone is totally capable of doing that.
Yes.
And on the audio side, you can go more in depth with it, or you can just be scrappy if you're more like me, and that suits you in terms of what's most important is that you just do the stuff, right? And you don't let silly things like get in the way of doing the stuff.
Yes.
I need to get this right, I need to get that right, and therefore you never do it. But one thing we didn't talk about is lighting, actually, which is super important.
Oh, yes, we should. We should talk about lighting.
Because lighting's so important, and it's really easy to miss, isn't it? Like you see people doing videos, and they've got like a window behind them, and they just sort of like look like this weird silhouette, So
if
you're doing your videos, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or wherever. Like, obviously, if it's just doing it on the fly for something like a vlog or doing it on Instagram or whatever, it's fine not to have great lighting, or you can just stand at a window. But if you are doing any kind of, creating, like you're going to be doing a bit of playing or something like that, use a bit of lighting. And normally, like, I use one of these things that you've got. What is it called? It's like a softbox. That's what it's called, isn't it?
It's a softbox, and there's so many out there. I started with one that I was borrowing from my wife's work, and then SBL, since then I was going to be it was COVID, and so couldn't get into a studio. And so we started this thing, with SBL, where you were like, well, maybe we'll just send you a nice light and you can do all the stuff from your home. Yeah. And so I have the Godox, I think it's Godox VL150, which is just essentially, a big sort of can light, where then there's a big hood that they call the softbox that attaches to that. And then it's a big studio light that, pours light into the room, but it really focuses it on the subject. So if you're watching this podcast right now, I have that on.
Me too, right there.
Yeah. And so it's, it's giving us a soft light. And then I have some lights behind me too. I'll just move out of the way and show you. I've got IKEA lights, and then I have this little key light too that actually my wife bought me that, is different colors and strengths. And so I just put this behind me to kind of frame, in between my monitors so that there's sort of a glow behind me. I don't know. I just saw other YouTubers do that, and I was like, maybe I should do that too,
It looks nice, doesn't it? It looks nice when you've got a bit of light in the background, but I think
so.
It is important. Do you need a softbox? I'm not sure. I think that a softbox I think it actually just dissipates the light. I'm talking BS. Like, I literally don't know because I know nothing about this, but I think it actually spreads the light quite evenly and makes it look soft, and that's why it's called a softbox.
Exactly. And it focuses it on a subject. What the cheapest option is a window, right? So like if you have a window and the light is coming in the window, if you're shooting, like if you are in front of the window and then your camera is in between you and the window, that's nature's softbox, right? That's the free softbox. The only drag about that is then it limits the times that you can shoot. Or if it's super sunny, or if it's cloudy, or if you want to shoot at night, right? I mean, I do a lot of my shooting when the house is the most quiet and chilled out is night. So then I've got my windows blocked out and I have the softbox up. But really, I mean, I remember thinking before getting into it, like, oh my God, lighting. I didn't want to know about it. I was like, oh, that's not my world. But then it's so cool if you just know a little bit. You're like, oh, I can totally see how this makes a big difference. And so if you just get even just something cheap, a little light stand and a softbox, probably on Amazon, it does indeed make a big difference.
Yeah, and you can get portable ones as well. You can get like really, really small portable ones that would fit on a desk, and it makes as Ian was saying, makes such a huge, huge difference. So really, all the gear you need to get started in a perfect world is an iPhone or smartphone and a little softbox, and then you're really ready to go, aren't you? Like that's all you need, really.
Yep. And I mean, I got a little tripod that I put, the iPhone on. I mean, there's tons of different stands you get, but I got a little tripod. I mean, you guys sent me one that I use for one of the cameras, and then I had one that, I got on Amazon really cheap. I mean, and that's, unless you're a super serious photographer, you don't need to spend a ton of money on a tripod. So it's very, very simple. And then if you want to go into the realm of recording audio separately and syncing it to the video, I use Logic, but you could use GarageBand. Like if you have a Mac, GarageBand is free, comes with your Mac. And then I still use iMovie, much to the dismay of some of the editing team at SBL. Connor was like, no more iMovie. But iMovie is awesome. I love it. I love it. I love some of the filters in it too. It's simple. You just start dragging stuff around and you kind of start figuring it out. And that also just comes with a Mac. So there's a little, there's some stuff you need, but it's pretty minimal. Pretty minimal.
I think, I'll tell you what, I was about to jump into, I guess, the other side of it in terms of like what platform you can be creating for, or how much you should be publishing. Should it be daily? Should it be weekly? Should it be monthly? I mean, like, how do you choose on that? And then how do you plan stuff out, and how do you actually get it done? But how about we do that in another episode? I think because that is going to be a meaty conversation.
Yes.
So with that said, how about we just wrap this up on a conversation about why people might want to create content for these social media platforms, which is what they are. Because I think we've talked about it today, but we've talked about it before, but somebody might be listening, somebody might be jumping in on this episode and been thinking, all right, I've got an iPhone, I've got a softbox, or my friend's got a softbox, but why the hell should I even be creating it in the first place? Do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. I think, well, first of all, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. But I wonder if you're listening to this episode, maybe you've always wanted to do it, or maybe you want to up your game. Or I think the secret to making great content is really making the stuff that you want to see. Make the stuff that you wish existed. I mean, I remember the first piece of content that I made for SBL was actually a course where you said, you want to do a course? And I thought, what do I wish existed in the bass universe? I wish there were a session player like Sean Hurley, like Pino Palladino, like Justin Meldal Johnson, that went through a bunch of different songs that they played on and broke them all down. Talk about the gear, talk about the techniques, talk about, the approaches, how they write the bass line. That, to me, I mean, I know it probably does exist, but not as in depth from some of my favorite players. So I thought, I do that. I mean, I've played on a bunch of things. Maybe I'll just do that. And so that's how I started, is I just started to play along to the things that I had done and talk about them. So for me, it was a really exciting opportunity to prop up some of these artists that are maybe lesser known artists that I've worked with, and then to talk about the things that I do. And I was really excited about it. So you have to, I think the main thing for making content, apart from the gear, apart from picking a platform, all that, is find a reason. What do you want to make? Do you love slapping? Do you want to really talk about the nitty gritty of that? Do you love music from a certain genre or era, and you really want to dive in and educate people on Carol Kay's bass playing? Or, I think, like there needs to maybe be a lane, and a lane of something that you really enjoy. That you don't think like, oh, I probably should do this because someone told me that. Just pick something that you like, because that will mean that you'll want to do it. I mean, and that's what I see from you, Scott. Like when you started, okay, you're messing around, you're dicking around on the bass, as you say, but then you're thinking about like, oh, but I could do a lesson. What was your first lesson?
My first lesson was how to solo over a 2-5-1.
And that's amazing. And there were very, very, very few people, if any, talking about that in 2008 on YouTube.
There was none.
Right.
Actually.
So, so you were the first.
I was the first, yeah. That's the...
And you probably saw this opportunity and thought, wow, and it's something that you loved. You've been working on that, I'm assuming, with Willis and with the people you were studying with. And you saw this thing of like, man, I got to go after that, and I want to tell other people how to do it.
Yeah. For me, it was interesting at the time because the whole creator economy didn't exist. So, and by that, I mean this whole creator economy, right? Sort of like creating content. And the reason why people create content is because there are these huge online communities built around niches. Obviously, we're talking about the bass niche, right? And there's this huge online community now that are all involved in bass and the love of bass and the celebration of bass, and people are on Instagram and YouTube and all of these amazing places, and that didn't exist back then. And I say that I'm kind of dipping into the question of why people should do that as well, but I'm saying about the community side, because there is this entire creator economy, this creator community online, and that's all it really is, and you can either be a part of it or not. And I don't think there's there's a right or wrong answer in terms of yes, you should, or yes, you shouldn't. It depends on do you want to be involved in that community? Do you think it could be a great fit for you? Do you want to? Because there's definitely a lot of opportunities could come out of it, and I think the opportunity is the big glaring thing that I think that anybody listening to this might be thinking, like, why should I be doing it? Well, it's really because of the opportunity that can come from it. Because just like any opportunity, when any opportunity out there is probably going to come from meeting somebody or from being in a situation where there's a community there to interact with, and you interact with that community, and then opportunities come through that community, right? So. Right. And it's the same thing with online. There's this huge online community all focused around this niche, or music in general, all interwoven in these beautiful ways through different platforms, and anybody can be involved in this. But you can be, and the best way to be involved in it is to be a creative content, a creator, a creative content creative, or a content creative, and because that's really kind of that's the barrier to entry. That's what you've got to get over to really be included and be a part of that. You can be an audience member and sort of like comment on people's posts and stuff, but I think to really be involved in the community, it's really actually great to step into that creator role yourself. Because then it will, again, more opportunities will come from it, more than just commenting on posts. If you want the opportunities that come from being a creator, you've got to start getting out there, and you're going to be able to work with artists. You're going to be able to collaborate with artists. You're going to be able to collaborate with companies. You're going to be able to, there's all of these also like unknown opportunities that will come from being involved in that community. And I think that the one that jumps out to me the most is you, Ian, and how you got involved in SBL. It was purely through that, and I think that you probably saw a community online that were all interacting. There was a whole vibe going on. You thought that you could be a part of it, and absolutely you could. And then you started doing your thing, and then what's come out of that? You're now part of the bass community. You are a really important part of the bass community. Like most bass players that are on Instagram will know who you are, or will know, or will find out who you are over the next year or so, is because you've got like 30,000 followers. 30,000 followers on Instagram. It's really fantastic.
Quite, but yeah. Getting there.
You will do, right?
Yeah.
You will do. And I think that the opportunity is just so huge for somebody like me, like you, like somebody listening to this podcast. It's like, if you want to be involved in that community, the best way to do that is to become a creator. And that's kind of like the gateway into this world. And then all manner of opportunities might fall off the back of it.
I love that you're talking about opportunity, and I'm so sorry that I was scrambling because I realized that for this entire podcast, my computer wasn't plugged in, and it was like, your computer is going to die in 5, 4, 3, and I'm like, oh my god! So talking about gear, getting my crap together. Now it's plugged in, we're good to go. But I'm so glad you talked about opportunity, because I have just been looking around, thinking like, is anyone else seeing this? It's a land grab. I can't even begin.
It's exactly that.
Yes. Yeah. I can't even begin to tell you how much opportunity there is if you decide to make content and talk about the things that you love and you're good at it. And you don't have to be the best, and you don't have to be as good as you're ever going to be to start. But as long as you're not delusional and you have self-awareness around what you do and you think you're good at it, whether that's speaking or playing or you're knowledgeable about something, if you can start to make content for a community around that thing, presumably bass. We're probably talking to bass players here, but that's exactly what I did. I am not the best bass player in the room, right? I have not had the best gigs of all the bass players out there, right? I don't live in Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, London. right? But what I started to do was just talk about the things that I loved and then try to bring value to the community by saying, here are all the settings on my pedal, or, hey, check out this artist if you like these kinds of things. And, really just trying to be a giver in that sense. And then the opportunity is insane that comes from that kind of spirit.
When you were talking about where you are,
yeah,
you're like, I'm not in Chicago, I'm not in LA, I'm not in New York, I'm not in London. I just sort of like, I had this sort of like,
yeah,
kind of like just looked inside the matrix there. Online, the online community, bass community, music community is like a city into itself. That's actually what it's like, okay? And anybody can plug into that city. You can be a part of that city. You can make friends in that city.
Oh, I love this idea.
You can interact with people. You can socialize. It's a virtual city that you can plug into and be a really important part of. If you don't want to, that's fine. But if you do want to, it's right there for the taking. And I think that, again, just to say, if you're interested in really, just like you would move to any city, if you are interested in going to a city and being, becoming part of that community and adding value to that community and then interacting and then working with people within that community, it should be approached in exactly the same way. The social landscape right now online is that city, and anybody can go there and you can add value there and you can interact there. And it's just, and I hate to Black Mirror this a little bit, even though I've not even watched Black Mirror, but
oh, you have to? Really?
Yeah, when Mark Zuckerberg announced that they were renaming their Facebook, that they were renaming it to Meta, and then obviously the metaverse as a the metaverse is different to obviously Facebook. It's a generalized term of creating a metaverse, a new online place where people will interact in new and different ways in the future, right? Well, this is kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of like that already, but the window into the metaverse is through your device.
Yes,
it's through your device. It's still a place, though. It's an actual world that exists, and you can be a part of it, or you can be a bystander, and just somebody looking in.
And I think there's this conception of social media. There's a really negative conception of it in the world where people need to take a break from Facebook, need to take a break from Instagram, all that stuff. It is what you make it. It really is. It is like what you post is how you're going to be perceived in the metaverse or on the platform, right? So I don't post about every opinion that I have. I'm not trying to rile people up with controversy. I'm talking about the things that I love. And I'm trying to bring a good vibe, and then I get good vibes back. So really, it is as simple as that. It's as simple as talking about what you love, and you'll get that. You'll get love in return. I really do believe that. I mean, I know that sounds probably simple and silly, but I really, really do believe that. And for me, there have been so many opportunities that have come from Instagram, Instagram specifically. And I mean, doing this thing with you, a result of Instagram, and also just a bunch of relationships. What I have been amazed about, and I wonder if you have too, is that like, okay, yes, there's going to be business opportunity, but then I've gotten in touch with some people and made like friendships, had like really meaningful, then that have turned into phone calls or Zoom calls with people that I've never even met. And I feel like I'm really close to them. And I was not prepared for that, or I didn't think that that's what I was doing. I didn't think that I was creating necessarily community or relationship, but that has been a byproduct of doing the thing that I'm doing. And that's been so amazing. Maybe that's been one of the most amazing things is the relationships that I've made as a result of just, talking about the things that I love.
Absolutely, yeah, because it is exactly what we're talking about here. Now, like it is a city. I think that it's actually quite a cool way. I love that idea. It's a cool way of thinking about it. It's a city, and you can go and interact in that city, and And how you do that is through the lens of your device that you're using, right?
Yes.
And then you're gonna make new friends, you're gonna meet new people, you're gonna interact with all of these people. And the cool thing is that it's really open as well. You can just imagine a city where you could just like walk along and you can walk up to the front door of like whoever you're a big fanboy of, and you can knock on their door and say, "Hey man, I really like your stuff. I just want to let you know." And they are probably gonna be like, "Oh, cheers, man. That's wicked." And that's a DM. That's just hitting somebody up on Instagram like, "Hey, dude, you blow my mind every time I hear you play whatever, guitar, bass, or whatever." And they'll probably message you back and be like, "Yeah, man. Oh, cheers. That's really fantastic." And that's, so I think that from a conceptual standpoint, it's just interesting, I guess, to look through it through a different lens in terms of having that. It's a city that you can be involved with and add value to and interacting.
I love that idea. And okay, so the idea of in a city, you got to be out on the scene, right? You got to go to the gig and you're going to maybe sit in or you're going to meet people. Well, I love this idea in the digital city. What you do, you can send someone a DM. You can take it even one step further. When I started Instagram, I fell in love with a content and music creator named Johnny B. Good 89. He makes this unbelievable video game music and he put out a record and I fell in love with it. He's not a massive superstar, but I loved his music. So instead of just sending him a DM or just commenting, I essentially went to his gig and learned the music. So what I did is I decided that I was going to do a Johnny B. Good 89 week, and I took every tune on his record, learned it, transcribed the synth bass stuff, and then played it on my channel, and then hipped people that I knew to him, and he was blown away. He was like, "What? I can't believe that you're doing this." And I was like, "I just love what you do." And then that led to stuff with us where we've worked on stuff together. And I've done that with a few bands that I absolutely love. I'll just play their stuff. And then it hips people to it. They're like, this is so nice that you're doing this. And I'm like, well,
it's amazing, isn't it?
I love it.
Yeah.
And so that's how that's like going to their gig and trying to meet them. Well, you just play their music and show other people their music. That's a really tangible thing that you can do. If you're like, "Oh, I would love to play with such and such an artist," take one of their songs, play it, tag them, and just see what happens.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And to your earlier point as well, I do think it's a land grab. It is. Like it is a land grab. I think that it's a big conversation, man. But it definitely, there's always that element, I think, of a land grab, and I think that someone will always come along and be able to kind of sort of like a salmon down the river. They will get down and they'll make it big, even when the platform is just completely kind of like just there's so many people on there. Take YouTube for instance, right? I can remember when Davey 504, is it Davey 504, 505?
Yeah, for sure.
Davey, let's go with Davey. Hey, Davey.
No, you're right. You're right.
I can remember when he started off. I can remember when he started off, and it was like there was a lot of people online, and he just dialed in that content creation, how he did something really unique, took that meme culture and used the bass and that whole thing.
I know.
And then has just exploded 10 million. I think he's got 10 million followers. I can remember when he had like half the followers that I did. I was like, "Who's this Davey guy? He's quite cool." And he just exploded.
Yes.
Adam Neely, Rick Beato, like these guys that just exploded. Like I think that YouTube is harder. And I think that the land grab side of it is probably, it's, as I say, I think there's still opportunity there. I think there'll always be guys that sort of like the salmon down the river that manage to sort of like get through and do something very unique. Yeah. But I think that there has been, the land grab might be over to a certain extent on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Other than the sort of like a few outliers. On Instagram, I think it's wide open. I think it's wide
I
open.
Agree.
I think it's wide.
And the thing, I know we're going to talk probably.
We'll
TikTok,
talk
yes.
Yeah. It's wide open.
And I mean, just maybe as a little bit of appetizer for the next one, what I'll say about Instagram, where I really resonate with that, is YouTube for me has always felt so daunting from a production perspective. Like, oh man, I'm going to record all this video and then I need to do all this editing. And it has felt that the barrier to entry on YouTube for me is the production. It always felt too intense. And now I've done it a bit, and it is more intense,
and it is intense.
Than Instagram. It is.
It's intense.
And so I still feel that in a sense. I mean, that's why I don't have a YouTube channel that's very active. I mean, of course I do stuff for you and for some other people, but I find that the platform that I resonate with the most is Instagram because it's bite-sized. I feel like I can make a 30-second clip and I get really excited about editing and making that 30-second clip really good and sounding really good and looking really good. And then it's just that little bit instead of, trying to really dig into making a 13-minute video really good. So I like the bite-sized nature of it. I think that's really a cool aspect of that platform.
I think it's great as well. I think it's great. Something came to mind then. I thought it was going to be good to share. And then it went.
No.
It just disappeared. Yeah, I was like, oh, that might be good to share. That's what it was. I think that, somebody might be listening to this and they might think, well, I'm not good enough yet.
Right.
I'm gonna say something that I don't think I'm gonna regret it, but let me just put it out there, right? Maybe you're not good enough yet. Just like when you move to a city and you're getting your stuff together, and maybe you just need a little bit more practice. And obviously, there's going to be people listening to this who are easily good enough, who will have that kind of mentality that they need to do a little bit more, right? And so there's two sides of this coin. A lot of bass players are just so capable, and some might not be. You might not be good enough, but that means, can you not take that and actually make it a positive and talk about what you're working on and that you're trying to get
100%.
better at things? And actually sort of like more document the process of what you're doing.
Yes.
So I think my point is that if you think to yourself, well, I'm not great and I've probably got some practicing to do, and and you've got that thing going on in your mind right now. Maybe you have got some work to do. Put them out. Right. We've all got work to do, right? But maybe you do. But you can actually flip that around and actually start documenting what you're doing and documenting your practice and documenting the records that you've heard. Saying, hey, I've just been listening to this. Take people on a journey with you through how you're learning and the things that you're listening to and the things that are inspiring you, and hit people up on there, get involved in the community, that whole thing. I guess my point is that even though you might not be good enough to be like whatever, right?
Yes.
Not that you have to be that, but you might not be there yet, but it's cool. You can still do the thing just like you would if you went anywhere.
And you're speaking to this thing that we all have, which is perspective. We all play the bass, and that is not interesting. The fact that Scott and I play the bass is not the thing. It's the thing that we have a specific voice or a specific like set around our playing. We like certain things, so we exude different things. It makes us have a personality in our playing. So if you're listening to this and you're in your 20s maybe, and you're thinking, or wherever you are, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough, or I don't know if I have that perspective or personality, let me just tell you, you do. Everyone has a personality, a perspective. Yeah. Something I tell students a lot, like there was a student that I was doing, over Skype or whatever, and they were saying, well, I can't do content because I'm in music school right now, and it's crazy because it's like lockdown, but we still do this and that. And I'm like, I'm fascinated by that. I said, that's not a perspective that I have. I didn't go to music school, A, and B, I've never been to school during a pandemic. So, what if you talked about that? Like, what if you talked about where you are right now? And I said that I would watch that. I would be wildly interested in what class and like group settings look like. Are you all in masks? Do you have to do a certain thing? It's like, how do you communicate with an ensemble when you're in a mask? Is it eyes? Is it head nods? I mean, you could make such a compelling piece of content about ensemble playing masked. It could be funny. It could be informative. It could be, you know what I mean? And it's just people are always so focused on ability. And the thing that I hear you saying, Scott, is that it's not necessarily about the burning chops. It's about your perspective and what you have to say about your journey, wherever you're at. We're all at a different spot on this trajectory of the lifelong journey of music, right? And just because you are maybe, if you're further along or if you're way in the beginning, there's always something worth sharing. At least in my mind, there's always something that you can add to the conversation.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly what I was trying to get to. It's kind of like blown my mind a little bit about thinking about the the online as a city. It's kind of like I'm kind of stuck that. Yeah, it's like freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, whoa.
You did it. You did it. I know, dude. You know what? My mind started to race about talking about that. I mean, I think Scott, I think you need to get some thoughts around that and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Just to wrap this episode up, what I've found in my past is that the way that you think about something, conceptually, can really change how, like, a bunch of different things. I'm trying to think about how to unpack this. I don't think it's going to happen. But I guess in my past, I've believed something to be true, or I've believed something to be true, but just from not really thinking about it. It's kind of sort of like being an internal belief that I've not really questioned, because it's been kind of running in the background like some sort of like script in the back of my noggin, right? And sometimes certain things have happened in my past that have like altered the script.
Yes.
And made me look at that thing conceptually in a different way. And that's always really interesting for me. So like things like coming up with sort of like a visual way of thinking about a specific thing, like a virtual digital city, is really interesting to me, because it makes me feel different about the landscape of social media. And from that, the byproduct of that will be I might approach it in a new and different way. And I think that I'm kind of sort of like, super interested in stuff like that.
This reminds me, this goes back to maybe our first episode where you were like, I'm so crappy with tech. And I said, oh, I don't perceive you that way. And then you were sweet enough to talk about how there was a teacher in your early development that was Scott Devine, he's going to be on the computer, he's going to break it. And there was this narrative implanted, because we're not born thinking that we're shit. We are not. People tell us that we are. And that's the stuff, right? Cool. That's the stuff that we have to unpack and get over. So I love the idea of you talking about the digital city, and thinking about that can maybe help you with the people that have said to you, Scott, well, you have to, obviously, if you want to build anything, you have to be in London. Obviously. People have said that to me. Ian, if you want to have any footprint in this community, you have to be in Nashville or Los Angeles. I've had family members say that. I've had colleagues say that to me. And whereas there's aspects of that are true, but you know what? It's not true. It's not fully true. Yeah. And the way of thinking about this metaverse or social media or digital city hopefully might be an unlock. I mean, Scott, it's so good. I would love to hear you talk more about it. Like, I think it could be a real unlock for people who are living in Toledo, who are living in Durham, who are living in Kilmarnock, and they are going, do I need to be in Glasgow? Do I need to be in London? Do I need to be in Nashville? Like, maybe not. Not necessarily. It just depends on what you want to do. And if you start thinking about the digital city, boy, that might be a big deal. Yeah.
Oh, good food for thought, man. I had somebody, a notable bass player that everybody will know. I'm not going to mention their name. I met him years ago, and he was like, "Where are you living, man?" He's from the UK. I said, "Living in Leeds." He was like, "Dude, what's going on in Leeds, man? What's going on in Leeds?" Like, his point was, get the hell out of Leeds.
Yeah, right.
And at that time, I was actually, it will have been about 11 years ago, actually. So it was like when the whole YouTube thing, when I was just conceiving, kind of brewing on this idea of maybe there's something like a huge opportunity online here. So it's a funny one, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. And I mean, it is just about what you want. If you wanted to go be a West End guy, then duh, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted to get on a country music tour, duh, Nashville. But there are other things. There is no longer this thing in the world of, if you want to be a part of the conversation, if you want to be a part of the community of music, you have to live in ABC. That is over.
Yeah. Wow. Man. I'm going to go see Dune tonight.
Yeah, you are. It's going to blow your mind. Dude, I can't wait to talk to you about it.
And Dune.
I can't wait to talk to you about it. I hope you have fun. I hope Lisa likes it as well.
Dudes, thanks for listening to the podcast.
Yeah,
and coming on this adventure, this adventure of digital cities and what have you. Right, guys, we will see you in the next episode where we will be talking about, well, kind of the similar thing. It'll be part 2 of this conversation where we'll be talking about creating content. But in the next one, we've alluded to some of it, but we will be talking about which platform to choose, why it's important to choose a platform. Should you choose multiple platforms or just stick to one? About how to create a cadence for yourself or choose a cadence, how to plan the content, and everything around all of that. And sort of I guess some sort of expectations as well you should set when jumping into this digital world. Anyway, dudes,
love it.
Take it easy. I'll see you in the shed.
Cheers, everybody.